Hey folks, a lot of you who follow me on here know that I'm an assistant professor in higher education, and as a faculty member I have some access to some professional development funds. And last year I decided to use some of those funds and some additional ones that I just got some support from my chair to get to join this National Center for Faculty Diversity and Development. My institution doesn't have an institution membership, and so I decided to do sort of a personal investment in my sort of scholarly development to do some work with this organization. It's been a actually really useful and powerful tool in lots of different ways, but today it sort of hit in a different way. So one of the things that being a part of this NCFDD is there's these monthly videos, or I'm sorry, weekly videos where Dr. Carrie Ann Rockmore, who's the ED of the organization, puts out some challenges, puts down some reflection questions to think about, and they just sort of like all build on each other. And this week's big question was, do I really want to do this? This is the time in the rotation of this program where folks are asked to sort of think about their professional journey and their professional story, and if this is the trajectory that they want to be on. Now, in this version, because this is part of the alumni, it's sort of like a second rotation, third rotation for some folks. Dr. Rockmore suggested that instead of asking the big question of do I really want to do this, as in like my job, my role as a faculty member, is to sort of pick a very specific area of one's life to focus on instead of just like the whole thing. And she posed these questions as these three things that folks need to resolve in life, right? It's what, with whom, and where. And the prompt is to sort of like pick one of those, kind of figure out where you feel some tension, some stuff being unresolved, and then think about how you wanna sort of resolve it. The problem is, lately I've been feeling very unresolved around all of them. The last month or so in particular has sort of zeroed in on all of the questions in different ways. And it's interesting. I'm finding myself asking the question of how much what I really want to do, and how much what I really want to do sort of conflicts with and doesn't mesh with what I'm able to do, or what I have access to do, what I can or cannot change, and not in sort of what is irreversible in my life sort of ways, but in terms of how other parties have affected where I can move from around these questions. So for example, the answer to with whom has been resolved in my head for a really long time. Or I guess I can't really say a really long time. It's been like the past a little under 4 years that the with whom answer has been the same for me. And however, that person is not in that same place. So while it's resolved and for me, it's not for that person, and so I can't move forward there. And I find myself always thinking about what the right thing to do is here. This person is also really important in my life in general, and is a good friend, and one that I want to always have in my life. And knowing that any sort of verbiage in the wrong direction can jeopardize that, sort of like puts up a barrier. I guess I'm more worried about losing her completely than not being fulfilled in this way. So the with whom is on stopgap. The where has also been resolved. I know where I want to be. I want to be in Philadelphia. I want to move to a place where whenever I go to visit, I feel like I'm going home. It doesn't feel like I'm visiting. It feels like I'm taking a break from the rest of my life to go home. And only one other place in the U.S. has ever felt like that for me since I moved here in '99, and that was Chicago. But that has changed since then. And so Philadelphia feels like home. The people that I go and stay with and spend time with feel like family. And it feels good to just sort of be among them. Most of them are also not in higher education or student affairs, so it also feels good to take a break from the field with them and just actually have people in my life that are not colleagues, that are not scholarly or professional or practitioner or whatever other type of colleagues, that I can just be friends with and just be family with and kin with, and that's it. Those worlds don't have to constantly be overlapping. It's a kind of rare for higher ed folks to have that. So again, the where is resolved, but my job has me here in Michigan, so I can't move an institution or a department over to where I want to be. And so the where collides with the what a little bit. I mean, I'm saying a little bit because it's not the only thing that sort of has the what intention. It is part of it, right? I want to be there, but my job is here. And so it brings up how much do I want the what. I am doing something that I want to be doing. I enjoy faculty life. I love doing research when I get a chance to do that. I love working with folks on campus to change it up a little bit. It's these are the places I thrive. I enjoy reading stuff from students who are just thinking about things a little bit differently because of some discussion in the classroom or some article that I had them read, or some speaker that came in and shared their perspectives. Like, I love this stuff. But it's not something that you can just sort of find anywhere and just move and get it. These positions have come under attack in this sort of like neoliberal world that we live in, where faculty are seen as the enemy. Intellectual life is seen as undesirable, and so anybody who resides in that realm is seen as an enemy of some sort of powers of the greater powers institutionally and culturally and socioculturally and politically. And so both at institutional levels and at national federal levels, there's and state levels, there's this constant sort of attack on higher education in general, and faculty oftentimes lose out in big ways, especially in terms of full-time employment ways, right? Objectification of the professoriate is real. And just chop up a full-time job into dozens of parts and underpay people for that same job. It's great for the budget, great for the bottom line, not so great for folks trying to make a living. Anyhow, so because it's hard to find these jobs, it's hard to just kind of decide I'm gonna move and I'm gonna do my work over there. And so it forces me to think about how badly do I want to hold on to it. Simultaneously, the other piece that has the what intention is me questioning how much of an impact I can have in this field anymore. and this is where sort of like the last month has come into play a little bit. It seems sort of seasonal that every few months, especially around major conference seasons in our field, I'm having to contend with narratives that are permeating, I guess, around me about who I am and what I've supposedly done, that I still haven't managed to, I don't know, find a way to move through. And these narratives have created barriers for me in terms of being able to work with other people, to share my work elsewhere, and build relationships with communities and community organizations so I can do the research and the work that I want to be doing. And so I'm hitting barriers, and I don't know how much more sort of I can contain and minimize until I hate what I'm doing, and it's no longer what I really want to do. And so I keep thinking about sort of what is the next step if this isn't going to last. Where do I go to professionally? And it's been a tough question to contend with. It was a battle to finish my doctorate. As a first-generation student, as well as a first-generation immigrant, like, I can't take this stuff for granted, and I have a lot of guilt around it, a lot of working class guilt around it. How do you give up something that has become so rare in our field? Tenure track faculty position that's unionized, that's protected for the most part. How do you give that up and just wing it? How do I explain to someone like my mom, who's sacrificed her entire life to make sure that I can move forward, that our kids can move forward, that I give up? It's not something I want to put her through again. I've hit these walls of giving up before, and managed to sort of not expose her to them. I think maybe only once she's had to sort of deal with me giving up, or being close to giving up. And it wasn't pretty. It was really, really hard to see her sort of question everything she's done, and the choices she's made because of where I landed. And it's a story of, I guess, most Middle Eastern women who sort of take on the burden of generations past and generations forward. And so, one generation forward, and where do I go? Where do I go from here? So yeah, all my questions are unresolved. The what, the with whom, and the where. I also think about sort of what's reversible. What can I sort of turn back in terms of time, in terms of professional time? But that's getting way too philosophical at this point, and it's late, and none of y'all are listening anymore. So I guess even though this week's question was supposed to be lighter and more specific. Has me reeling a little bit, has me sort of spinning, because they're just so interconnected right now, and bumping heads, and feeling like I don't really know how to make these big decisions, how to process these questions, how to, as the Jesuits say, how to discern, what my purpose is and what my next step is. Am I living my purpose, and just need to figure out how to keep doing it, or is my purpose something else? I don't know. I guess I've always left the what do I want to be when I grow up question answered and unanswered and ever changing and evolving. Curse of a Gemini. Well, I guess stay tuned. Maybe I'll have an answer soon. I can only hope.